Welcome back to What Was That, where Nitesh and I discuss what's going on in the business world and the tech world and where they coincide. And I, as the tech guy, have not yet managed to edit the last episode because of tech issues. And now my mic has conked off because of tech issues. Good life, good life. What's up, Nitesh?
Good competence, Vineet. That's so good. I am still riding high on the Om Shanti Om screening from last week. It's still in theaters. I highly recommend you watch it. It's a shared experience. So, like I said last week, I have also rewatched The Godfather in theaters. I've rewatched Pyaasa in theaters, and both times, if anybody in the audience spoke at anything above a whisper level, I screamed at them. I am that uncle in the theater now who tells people to shut the fuck up. I'm proudly that uncle. Here,
You also get to shut off all torches when they start looking at their phones in the middle of things.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. If someone has the audacity to take a call in the theater, I will chase them out of the auditorium.
So, like
That
phone screens are suddenly there's like torch shining in your face from like the next seat.
and why does everyone use their phones at maximum brightness? Like it gets burnt into your retinas.
Auto.
Not just because it's dark, but even otherwise.
But actually,
Maximum brightness.
auto should be reversed, right? Auto should be if the ambient lighting is dark, the screen brightness should be low.
Yeah, but their default setting is max. So it's always at that Oppenheimer blast level of brightness. I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyways, back to my point. In Om Shanti Om, from the first frame, like Red Chili's presence, to the first shot of Rishi Kapoor, to the first shot of Shah Rukh Khan, Farah Khan fighting over Rishi Kapoor's jacket, to Sunil Dutt, who's on the screen for 2 seconds in that song, which they use their VFX to put Deepika Padukone into. And for everything, there was a cheer. Everything. Like first half hour, you could barely hear the dialogues. However, I wasn't my uncle's self. It was part of the experience and it was a lot of fun. Like,
I,
I don't know, because the audience looked younger. So I don't know if this was a nostalgia thing for them or not. Or maybe they watched the movie
we have
on laptop screens or on TV or wherever. But it was a shared experience. It was fantastic.
the audience was younger because they saw this movie in their previous life. That was a conversation killing bad joke.
So, in the week since, this was last Saturday, in the week since, I have rewatched Agnipath at home, not in theaters, the Amitabh one, and also the Ritik one, and also Scarface for good measure. And the original Agnipath is a decent remake of Scarface. It's properly Indianized. The dialogues, Kader Khan, amazing. Very problematic South representation by way of Mithun Chakravarti. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you could just edit that whole 1 hour out. It is aged really, really badly.
But that this movie exists without Krishnan Iyer Yam Ye Nariyal Pani Wala.
Two songs to that effect. What?
And not even Krishnan Iyer MA. Krishnan Iyer Yam Ye Yayam Nariyal Pani Wala. The movie, yeah, you can't edit. It is what it is. Not defending it, it is what it is.
But back to my point. Everywhere that the movie hits upon the Scarface high notes, it works beautifully. Even the restaurant scene, you meet the bad guy, say hello to the bad guy, and all of it. It's beautiful. I love that movie. A lot of history there. Amitabh was at probably the lowest point of his career when he did that movie, and it was the first time he was playing an out and out grey character. Uh, it was nice. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed.
That police station scene, that was the intro, right? His, as in his first scene in the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a scene. This was during the ABCL time, or that was
Just after that.
that
Stuff.
terrible Ganga Jamuna Saraswati, which was a fucking comeback, right?
Yeah. So this is like Amitabh's lost decade, no? From when he made a foray into politics, and then ABCL and Amar Singh and everything imploding, and what an arc, no? From there to KBC.
Yep. What an arc.
Amazing. Yeah.
So I have to give you a 2 minute uh, update on one tweet that has gone viral, is not the word anymore. It started with this random woman just uploading a 3 second video clip of herself in an auto. Right. Just saying, young people lingo, make up 8 today. Like, I am looking really good, right? A selfie video types.
Mm-hmm.
It went viral.
Okay.
Right. And the first set of responses was, oh my God, why are you not blue ticked? Right. You would have been making money from this. This has gone so viral. And there's a bunch of people quote tweeting with that, why are you not a blue tick? Why are you not a blue tick? Then people realize that the algorithm is boosting whoever quote tweets this.
Oh, nice.
So that everyone like, oh, that looks great. That looks great. And they're seeing like 3,000, 4,000 likes and, like crazy amounts of impressions.
Mhm.
Then we got into I have a political take. Let me quote tweet this tweet to give my political take. Then it got to, dear Ola, my scooter is service center. And then quote tweet. And then finally culminating in people, because enough people had pointed out, dude, why are you not a blue tick? So you can, so a blue tick on Twitter is when people can make money, right? They
Right.
get more impressions. So then people realize she's got a blue tick now. So then, which led to this tweet today that now that she is blue ticked, she's going to make so much money that it will reverse all the tariffs impact. We will get so much foreign exchange, inshallah. That's what's going on.
You just described momentum investing.
Yeah, fair.
And it works. Like, I've seen this is not about a specific stock or market, so suck it. I've seen a rally start and then people get on. And I'm like, okay, fine, the story is played out. Yes, they have an exciting new partnership or they posted a great set of results. Fine, whatever. Then good news priced in now. But no, that's just the start. And then it goes on and it doubles and it quadruples and it loses complete sight of its fundamentals. And then something happens and it comes back down. And then people ride the wave down as well. It's fun. Yeah. The surfing metaphor works way better than it should for each of these things. Anyway, let's not
Surfing, did you jump? Yeah. I've mixed up two metaphors very seamlessly.
yeah. I
Proud of-
barely noticed it went on so smoothly. Before we start my story, I was just wondering, my thoughts on this aren't fully formed yet, so I'm actually asking for feedback. .com bust, global financial crisis.
Yeah.
Both times it was like a bunch of people in some obscure corner of the world did something, and that drew in a lot of people who didn't know what that thing was. And again, like we just described, momentum built, and more and more people joined, and then one day the bubble popped, and everything collapsed. Right? That's how you get strippers buying fly houses, and people starting companies which have nothing to do with the internet, but with .com in the name, whatever. Right? This time, maybe it's because it's the first bubble that I'm actually living through. Is it that, or is it that I'm suddenly a lot more financially literate than I was back then, having done the 3 years of study and endless hours of following the markets and whatever? I'm not sure if it's just me, or is the zeitgeist in general more aware of the dynamics of a bubble now than they were before. Is that a thing, or am I living in my own bubble? A lot more people, uh, especially in the media, but even otherwise, seem to be aware that this is a bubble, that this has all the hallmarks of a bubble.
Hmm.
Which you didn't hear a lot of in 2008, and certainly not in 2000. That was like a formative event, a canon event for all of us.
Oh, fact. Even that 2000s has a lot to do with that, right?
Sorry?
Social media has a lot to do with that, probably. I'm
Right.
guessing. We are more hyper online than, and when I say we, I mean just the two of us, not like we as a population.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that is absolutely there, but which I'm guessing also then feeds into the bubble because so many people are hyper online, especially the tech folks, the VC industry is so hyper online on Twitter.
Right.
So I think it's like feeding into back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is it in a way, it is a bigger bubble, and hence the awareness, the self-awareness or whatever that this is a bubble. Yeah, it's really funny. This is the first time I'm also seeing this. But again, in 2008, during the last major crash,
Mm-hmm.
we were all on early stage Facebook.
Yeah.
Was no social media actually, right? There was no, we were still reading newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Indian newspapers are hardly the place to talk about US subprime mortgage bubbles, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Even WSJ and all. See, WSJ and stuff are still now very gingerly stepping into the is this a bubble thing.
That's what I was going to say. In the past 2 weeks, that's what got me thinking about this. In the past 2 weeks, I've seen that Overton window slightly shift towards even the mainstream media outlets acknowledging that maybe it's not all as hunky dory as we've been painting for the last 5 years or
Yeah.
3 years at least. That slight shift of okay, this is an acceptable mainstream take now. That the capex is too much, and it isn't even just that this is a bubble. That top level macro argument of no, this is a bubble. You guys are all nuts. It's not that. There are specific critiques of the capex is too much. Yes, sure, AI is going to do wonderful things, but you guys have way overinflated the potential for monetization, for example, and just a lot of wonderful, sophisticated writing around this from people who are maybe not exactly in the financial space, but adjacent to it. Let's say, like the article we shared
Hmm.
what 3-4 days back, and the one that I shared yesterday, which is just it's by this guy called Jaidev, and oh, I love that. You must link it in the show notes.
Yeah.
It's like a long form primer on AI, what AI is, how it's been around in one form or another for almost 50 years, more than that, and how we got here and why the technology has been way oversold in terms of what it can achieve. And then to link that tech outlook with the finance part of it, where I understand that the balance sheets of these companies can take that hit for even a year or two more without you know it becoming existential. But it's just I feel like, to summarize, I feel like the discourse is a lot more sophisticated now than it was last time. Even like the average level of discourse is a lot
I would
higher
say
than it was.
I would say one key difference between 2008 and now, which plays into this. 2008 was a New York bubble, and this is a SF bubble. And SF just has a lot more power, a lot more money, and a lot more global centralization than New York does in finance.
Right.
So therefore, the consequences are also much bigger, and the discourse now is also much bigger because of that. Playing into the fact that now we have social media, we did not back then. Like, look at, for example, Meera Murati, the ex CTO of OpenAI. Right,
Mm-hmm.
6 months ago, like her company, Thinking Machines Lab, she basically left slash was kicked out last year.
Mm-hmm.
About a year ago, when this whole fracas happened, uh, Sam Altman was kicked out.
Yeah.
Then he was
So
brought back, and
what?
everybody sort of left was kicked out, slash was kicked out, right? So she started this company called Thinking Machines Lab.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't want to say that nobody knows what it does. I'm guessing people in SF, right? It's a small circuit. She's been talking to people. She's been building stuff, but they don't have a product out yet. April is when she was raising 2 billion at her $10 billion valuation. Was raising, I'm assuming she raised it, right? Or something. Uh, and people were mocking, this is a bubble. Where is the product? Now she's in talks to raise at a $50 billion valuation 5 months later. So there is way too much power that if that boulder starts rolling, Like before the is this a bubble talk can pop it or the bubble actually pops. There's
Mhm.
so much momentum it can carry.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, bit of both, bit of everything, I think.
I think it was 3 weeks back. I quoted from the book I was reading, right? That hedge funds did try to short the tech bubble in '99, and I think it was Paul Tudor Jones who said that it was like stepping in front of a freight train. You know it's going in the wrong direction, but there's nothing you can do. If you do step in front of it, you'll get run over. So,
And hence Michael Burry quitting or shutting down. And like this time, मेरा पैसा है इस बार मैं खुद ही करूँगा. Right.
and it was like I told you, no, I think it is the disclosure requirements that triggered this. Because
Yep.
from the time that he took those positions, the public positions that he did have, to now, see, first of all, it was sold as, or it was billed in the media as $1 billion position. That is $1 billion notional. He probably paid pennies on the dollar for the options themselves, right? So it's not like he's lost $1 billion or anything like that. Even if there have been uh, markdowns on the portfolio, they're nowhere near that. And he has enough personal wealth that he can do this quietly, not talk about it unless he's ready to. And if that's part of the move, like an activist trader would do, like Hindenburg would do, that here's my position, here's why I think this is a problem. But again, that works with specific companies. Doing it with uh, a broad bubble is very dangerous, and I think he knows that. Even during the global financial crisis, he sat on those shots for 2 years. He was paying the premiums on them for 2 years. That was 2 years of being wrong, and then 3 months of being spectacularly right. So I think he's familiar with the pain. But again, trading is hard, so we don't know. Maybe he's just had enough and wants to step away. I don't know. Maybe the more likely explanation is that he would rather do this away from the public eye until and unless he's ready to step back in. And he has been a bit of a Cassandra for the last 15 years because, and the best traders succumb to this. When once you have a winning play, you tend to see that everywhere. Every ball looks like that. When you have a nice cover drive, every ball looks like it might be a perfect candidate for that cover drive, which statistically cannot be. So he has spoken about a lot of bubbles, including one that I remember of subprime auto loans, which had all the same hallmarks, and nothing happened. Yes, in fact, you can still take out a 10-year loan on a 70, $80,000 pickup truck in the US with no credit history, and 10 years on a depreciating asset. क्या बोलूं? So of course it's wrong, but that doesn't mean that you can or should be on the other side of that trade, or try to short it. No.
Yes. Let's get into your story.
It's a nuanced situation, is what I'm saying, which is actually not true of my story for today.
No, no, I'm clean. No, no, hammer. Bring on the hammer.
It's just simple. A happened, then B happened, then C happened. But the A, B, and C are very interesting. Okay. There are a bunch of numbers here. So I will have to refer to my screen. But before we do that, just a primer, before a primer, a disclaimer. I actually do business with Pfizer India. So I just want to put that out there. It's not a large consumer business, but we do have a business relationship. And this is my personal opinion, has nothing to do with my business or what I think of Pfizer India or Pfizer globally or anything really. This is just, I'll try and stick to the facts as much as I can.
Ha, because I should warn you. This disclaimer will go in the full episode, which gets like 100 odd views.
Not in the
Opinion will go, or whatever you say will go in the shorts, which get like 10,000 views.
Have you considered applying for TMZ? The paparazzi
TMZ. Wow.
taking things out of context. With that, the just like you have this hot thing going on in the tech space, there's also a hot thing going on in the healthcare space, right? GLP-1, we've spoken about this. We have agreed it's wonderful and it's going to be a net positive for humanity. Wonderful. Uh, Two companies lead the race or are in the race at the moment, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, and they were doing well. Novo Nordisk came to market first, had the drug that everybody recognized, and so people kind of conflated Novo with the entire GLP-1 trade. So Eli actually came in from behind, but since they've executed better, I think at least in India they have a much larger market share, but even globally they are doing better than Novo, or at least as well. I think it's something like a 50 odd percent market share each. It's a share of that. So that's how the present GLP-1 market is. Now, let me give you a boring lesson to set the stage. Uh, for the longest time, like the past 100 years, the way drug discovery happened was scientists in a lab dreamed up some variation of an existing molecule or found an entirely new way of treating an existing condition, whatever. And that was in the lab. And then you would have stages of trials. You would start with animal testing. First, you start in the lab, then you do animal testing, then you do phased human trials, and then you would present all that data to your regulator, usually the FDA, and they would say, yeah, this is reasonably safe and the benefits outweigh the risks, and therefore we are allowing you to take this drug to market. Now, the US being the US, this whole regulatory maze and the process of starting from a molecule on paper or increasingly in a computer to actually having like a vial or a tablet ready to go to market is a long, painful process. And it's expensive. Estimates put it at about $1 billion. That is how much it costs today to develop a new molecule from scratch. Is $1 billion. That includes everything: your clinical research costs, regulatory fees, paying your researchers for the 5, 6, 7 years it might take to finish all the trials, all of that. So in the early stages of the pharma industry, like the 1900s, you would have the pharma industries, the Pfizers of the world, who had their own R&D division and who would do this. And of course, financialization happened. And so you started seeing, surprisingly, a lot of PhD candidates or teachers working in academic departments in the US who stumbled upon in their thesis or while doing their research, stumbled upon a new molecule, a new way of delivery, a new delivery mechanism, whatever. And they would go out and start a company, raise venture funding, or just fuck it, go list straight away because the US is nice like that. And so you have these like hundreds of biotech companies. They're called biotech companies now, which are doing research. They're at various stages. Many of them are like 2 quarters away from running out of cash. The classic VC funded, and somehow some of them are listed. Model of we're desperately trying to build something and it's a race against time, and we if we succeed, we're going to go to the moon, otherwise we crash and burn. So it's the output is very binary. You cannot have a drug that is slightly approved, like you can't be a little pregnant. Either your drug works and it is safe and you can take it to market, or it's dead. That's it. These are the only two outcomes. So there are hundreds of biotech companies in the US, many of them listed, where you can invest, and it's a straight up punt, 0, 1. Uh, and this is the ecosystem is sophisticated enough that there are actually analysts who are like MBAs or CFAs, but who have also done PhDs in medicine, and therefore who can actually read the papers that these guys put out and actually assess whether this drug realistically has a chance of passing regulatory approvals or not, which I think is really cool. So this is a proper sophisticated ecosystem, which it should be, because the sums are involved are mind-boggling, right? So I'm going to really oversimplify the way this works. But earlier you would have a company like Pfizer developing maybe 40 drugs. Let's say they're spending $1 billion each on developing those drugs, and maybe 39 of them failed, right? But one clears all the approvals and you're ready to take it to market. Let's say it's something like Lipitor, which is a brand that they own, which is cholesterol, which is a cholesterol buster, right? So straight away you have like you can do billions of dollars in sales right from the day you launch, and you have a 10, 15, 20 year patent window. 15 years, I think, is standard. So you have 15 years to really juice all your spends and try and make everything back. And maybe that one out of 40 makes you $100 billion. So the math was you spend 40, make 100, and you're doing really well. Classic venture, spray and pray, all those dynamics were in play here. But this was happening inside R&D departments of the pharma giants. Then they said, why should we take on these risks? Let the market take it. So then you had small biotechs, and what would happen is either once they get the approval or more and more, because that's the way capitalism works, and they're on the verge of getting approval, they get acquired by one of these companies, because this is like five people in a lab. They don't know how to clear the regulatory hurdles. They don't know the first thing about manufacturing, and it's not their core strength. They don't have distribution, they don't have boots on the ground, and this is something that has to be marketed around the world. And the day your patent is granted, you have a 15-year clock ticking, right? You need to maximize your returns. You can't get the patent and then go out and start exploring how you're going to manufacture it. Yeah, clock is ticking. It's a really, really tight uh, time frame. So increasingly, just when they're about to get approval, they get acquired, and then these large companies, the Pfizers and the Novos of the world, can just plug this new molecule into their existing infrastructure, whether it is regulatory approval or infrastructure or manufacturing or distribution, whatever. They can just plug it into what they have. So that's what they are bringing to the table, and these guys get a nice payday, right? In the specific example we're going to talk about today, it was a $10 billion payday. Spoiler alert, but yeah, it was a $10 billion payday for a molecule that hasn't been approved yet, right? So there is still a risk in whoever's acquiring this, but it's a hot space. And so to set the stage, Eli and Novo Nordisk have their existing brands. They're doing well, one more so than the other, but they're already in this space. Pfizer had a candidate in development. So they are doing development in-house as well, especially in such hot categories where it's really important to be there. It's a hot field thing. It's like a tech company not doing AI. Like, what even the fuck are you doing? So I say Pfizer is a pharma company that did not have a GLP-1 drug. So what are you even doing? Because the COVID play is over, right? So they played that one correctly. They came to market, acquired, whatever. Story for another day. But Pfizer played the COVID crisis really well. But since then, the market has moved on to, the narrative has moved on to GLP-1. Pfizer had a candidate, it failed in trials, so they had nothing to show for it. They identified a company, a small US listed biotech, which is close to getting their final approvals, but hasn't got it yet. It will still take a few months at least. But they said, no, we need to be in this space. And so we are making a bid for this company, which is listed, and we're going to acquire it. Right? Are we okay so far? Yeah, no, there was a lot of data, and not so much data, but just context thrown at you. Yeah, it's a nice break from AI and small caps. Yeah, this is fun. So on September 22nd, 2025, this year, Pfizer made a bid for this company called Metsera. They offered 4.9, almost $5 billion. Now, the way these deals are structured, this is common practice. Okay, you're going to get like 2/3 upfront. The shareholders of Metsera will get 2/3 upfront, and the balance 1/3 is tied to various approval milestones. Because Pfizer wants Metsera also to have some, the shareholders of Metsera to also have some skin in the game and to share some of the risk as well, right? And the reward as well. So that is there. So they made a bid for $5 billion. September 22nd. Novo Nordisk, which has been already in this space and has had like a wonderful run up on its stock, but which has since declined because Eli is executing better. They came in with an unsolicited bid. They said, no, we will be a better home for this company. We are going to bid 9 billion for it. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, okay. We're going to bid 9 billion for it. So they kept the contingent part almost similar to what Pfizer had offered, but they offered a little more cash upfront, which is a guaranteed part. So now Metsera has a board of directors, right? And this decision fell on them. They need to decide. even though this was an unsolicited bid, it is their fiduciary duty to consider all the bids and pick the best one for their shareholders. And again, this is a US listed company, so if they make the bad choice, the US is very litigious that way, right? So it had to be the correct choice, and it had to appear to be the correct choice. Novo came in with a much larger offer plus more cash upfront, right? So they studied the offer and they said, yeah, it is a superior bid. However, we will give Pfizer time to respond because they made the first offer. On November 3rd, Pfizer came back and said, we'll pay a little less than what Novo Nordisk has offered, but we are paying more guaranteed amount upfront. So Novo's bid was for 9 billion. Pfizer offered 8-ish, a little more than 8. But more of it was guaranteed upfront. So they were willing to shoulder more of the risk of what happens if this candidate also fails, which is still not ruled out. It is entirely possible because until you get approval, you are still under some shadow of doubt, no matter how little it is. Again, the board reviewed Pfizer's offer. They said, yeah, this makes sense. They are paying a little less, but more of it is guaranteed upfront. So the risk is on their shoulders, right? We think this is a better bid. The very next day, Novo came back and said, no, we'll pay even more. We'll pay more than what Pfizer is guaranteeing. The Pfizer guaranteed $60 a share. Novo said, no, we'll pay 62.50, 62.20. So we're going to pay more upfront. Plus, we'll give more if the milestones are met. That's called CVR, the structure that is.
This is Novo coming back with a counter offer, or this is Pfizer coming back with a counter offer?
Pfizer made the first offer. Novo made a counter offer.
Came back with 8.
Sorry?
Then Pfizer came back with 8, but higher risk.
Yeah. So Pfizer 5, Novo 9, Pfizer 8, but more guaranteed. Novo came back with 10. They said, we'll pay 10.
Wow.
And again, 62.50 guaranteed and 24 CVR. So they increased the variable part of it. So the entire extra valuation they were ready to pay was mostly contingent. Now here, at this point, normally what happens in takeovers is, like we saw during the Twitter acquisition saga, it can either go the lawsuit way of like there are 3 parties here and anybody can sue anybody, and usually when things go bad, everybody sues everybody. That's the way it works, right? But what Pfizer did, the CEO of Pfizer, they had an earnings call around this time after Novo's offer came in, and the board said, yeah, Novo's paying way more, so of course this is the superior offer. And Pfizer ka CEO during an earnings call, okay, pause. Do you remember in the 80s and 90s, we had the Rajkumar movies, not Rajkumar Rao, the Scarfala Rajkumar. Yeah. So in those movies, a common trope was that whatever bad is happening in our country, isme Videshi Takat ka aata hai, right?
Why did you go back to the 80s to say that?
Because nobody remembers that period, nobody cares about it. Okay. I'm playing it safe.
Yeah. Rajkumar cannot comment,
Exactly, Chani. Anyway, Pfizer CEO on an earnings call basically let out a dog whistle. See, we are an American company bidding for another American company. Why are we allowing these outsiders to come in? Pfizer CEO was vocal for local on an earnings call.
I have seen so much fear mongering about Chinese AI models in the AI space that I am not surprised.
No, it's a
You're
European company. The EU are allies. They're in NATO together.
यहाँ तक कि बड़े लोग हैं.
How can we allow these foreigners to come in and take our not our women, our assets?
No comment.
And it worked. The FTC reached out to wait, I don't want to mess this up. Reached out to Metsera's board and said, listen, if you accept Novo's offer, there is significant regulatory risk there for you. There are good chances that they can't say we are not going to pass this, right? but your risks are higher. So obviously, immediately the board said, okay, the fucking regulator who decides on these things is saying don't do it. What are we going to do? Right? Like from one source, I heard that it was 5 minutes after the FTC's communication came in, Pfizer came in and put in a matching bid, more or less. Yeah, okay. We'll pay a little more than what Novo is offering. We'll pay a little more upfront. We'll pay a little less on the contingency. Total, we are also ready to pay 10 billion. Company hui hamari. And Metsera said, yeah, that works. Makes sense. And the FTC fast tracked, they have this mechanism of wah, pushing approvals forward. They waived that off. And basically, the regulator said, yeah, they gave consent, which is such a weird.
हाँ, it's
Spot,
very Mia Bibi Kazi type.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly what it is, in fact. Right.
So,
Where, in fact, there's a parallel story here about what's going on in the Google and Epic case where the Kazi was not Razi in this case, where they wanted to settle, but no. So, for another day, sorry, continue.
right. So I have like an epilogue to this, but thoughts? This actually happened. This happened this week.
So many parallels, so many, like, in fact, I should do an Xperia next week. Xperia being this Dutch firm where this all, where the US through Europe tried to take over a Chinese company's assets in a Dutch firm
Mm-hmm.
and it backfired on them. But yeah, so much of this fear mongering about Videshi Takats is playing out everywhere. Everywhere. So not surprised. And especially with Trump's chief, not surprised at all.
These fuckers thought the word globalization, and suddenly it doesn't suit them anymore.
मतलब वो तो मतलब उनका hypocrisy if we start off तो कहाँ खत्म करेंगे? What this protectionism everywhere? They've been doing it for ages. Look at, of course, it also ends up backfiring very often. Right. Look at what is going on with American soybean farmers right now, for example. But yeah, they are also in the.
It's the end game yet.
Hmm. Okay. There's no
They were
story there.
bargaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, bargaining chip. That's all, and they'll continue to be bargaining chips.
But protectionism for me, but not for the socialism for me, but capitalism for the.
Of course.
वो सब तो मतलब I'm not nothing.
Yeah, no, I'm the last good immigrant.
Exactly.
It's the same sentiment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you must have rules in place to stop people from doing what I have been doing my whole life. You must. You cannot allow them. Allow me because I'm the last one in the door. But
I am the kid immigrant.
I'm pulling up the ladder behind me. और मेरे पीछे
मेरा situation different है.
Yeah.
My circumstances are different. To whom the rule that I am proposing would not apply because I am the good immigrant, the good company, the good whatever multinational.
So this is the cruel, cynical default. What was that level of looking at the world? Okay, but what if this is just okay? If we force ourselves to have a little bit of empathy for each of these players, how else was this going to play out? There was no other way. See, Pfizer's argument was, and it's not entirely untrue, okay, because there is history of this. Pfizer's argument was, Novo has no interest in bringing this molecule to market. They want to, they want to acquire this company so that they can throttle the development or get the patent and just sit on it for 15 years because it threatens their existing business. Solid argument. There is precedent for it. And who knows? We don't know the counterfactual. So we don't know if that's what would have ended up happening. Makes sense. Them waving the stars and stripes. ठीक है. Public company CEO hai. He's going to use all the weapons in his arsenal. This is a new one. And sometimes it horribly backfires. But what a shot. ठीक है. He took a risk and it paid off. Okay. Uh, good for him. That's all I'll say. For Pfizer. For the regulator, an important part I missed out. Novo's second offer, they basically said that we are waiving off control. Like, because that's where the board of Metsera said, we are not sure about Novo's offer because it carries regulatory risk. The second offer this was, Novo said, we are going to give you the money right now, the 52, 5650. We are going to give it to you right now, and you can dividend it out to your shareholders right now. So they're going to get this money right away, even before we get regulatory approval. Now, normally that would raise antitrust concerns, but the way Novo structured it was, they said, we will take non-voting preferential shares. So we're going to get economic ownership of Metsera, but we're not going to get voting control. So we're not decision makers. We can do this. That was their argument. And the shareholders are getting paid right away. Kalko, if this deal doesn't go through and then Metsera goes and gets acquired by somebody else, the first money that comes in, because we have preferred stock, the first money will come to us. We'll get our 5-ish billion back, and we'll go our way. And whoever's acquiring the company can pay you the rest. So you have a guaranteed payday now. That's the way they structured it. The FTC explicitly came out and said that, and so did Pfizer actually, that this is a way of sidestepping regulatory approvals. And it's a backdoor entry. They're not going to allow it. Which, again, yeah, that's right. Because in this instance, maybe we can argue that Novo had no other choice because they really needed this company and that was the only play they had. But it sets a bad precedent, right? If you're in the FTC's place, you don't want to allow this because the path from here to SPACs is not very far, right? Do you know what SPACs are? Yeah, yeah. Okay. So again, that was a way of sidestepping getting SEC approval before you list, right? Which is you set up this empty shell of a company which has nothing to flag. So the SEC says, yeah, sure, go ahead, list. And that is already listed. And then with its money, it buys an unlisted company or maybe even a listed company. It was a backdoor way of getting your company listed, which was very in vogue for like 6 months in the US. So this is like that. It sets bad precedent, and it's important to crush it at the very first instance and do it loudly and publicly so that people don't attempt it down the line. What the SEC did in this case, even if their motive wasn't entirely pure, was the right thing to do. That's what the regulator's there for, right? It was the right thing to do. And what Novo did, yeah, again, they threw everything they had at this. They said, we are willing to shoulder all the risk of this deal, of the drug not getting approvals, of the drug not making it to market. We are ready to pay for all of that. I would argue that more than, because estimates are Novo's own estimates are, I think these were Pfizer's, I'm getting it mixed up, was that the economic potential of this drug is 5 to 6 billion. So maybe Novo just wanted whoever is acquiring it, particularly Pfizer, to pay more. And they got that. It's going to be a long time, even if the regulatory approvals come through, before Pfizer makes money on this deal. Because they have overpaid as of today, by their own estimates, I think. Or at least by Novo's. I'm confused on that. But one of the two acquirers had pegged the potential at 5 billion. So
No, where I am is I have no sympathy or empathy for anyone in this story. So nothing in the story makes me want to even take a side. Ki who is the underdog here? Who gains? Because there are two pharma giants. I have no hate, no love, whatever, right? For pharma giants. That's all I'll say on this podcast. Right. So that is that. One is a European pharma giant, one is an American pharma giant. I mean, do I want to root for Europeans over Americans? Naturally, couldn't really particularly care. Right. We were not colonized by the Americans. So, yeah, that is one side of it. Typically, heart goes immediately for underdog. Even the underdog here, the company, there's no underdog between these two, firstly. The company getting
underdog. Metsera was the underdog, and they did really
out, right? It's not the underdog between the two, whatever, trying to buy out. Metsera is also a big listed company in this case.
they're a fun. Yeah. But before this, all this started, they
So
were
good
a
for
$3 billion company with with a question mark over, will this drug go to market or not? And suddenly they're like, we got acquired for 3 times more than we were worth, and all the risk is somebody else's, and we are good, we are done.
then bully for them. Like, great for them that the
Yeah.
AZ counter offer came in from the American firm.
Yeah.
Right.
And this will cause more companies to take these wild swings. which is exactly what the ecosystem should foster. I think as interesting and aggravating as some developments were, overall, this is good. It's the system working for once.
Yeah. But having said that, agreed. And I say this very gingerly as a startup founder, right? Great. Getting acquired is such a great outcome for startup founders or for, small cap founders or whatever, because they put so much of their life and blood, sweat, and tears and heart into what they're building. So they deserve that payout for that risk that they've taken. Having said that, all these acquisitions are what have led us to this mess in the first place where there's like a few companies ruling the roost in every sector. And again, as you're pointing out, one very likely outcome just could have been that the company gets acquired and the drug gets shut down just to kill competition. And we've seen that in the case of Instagram also. It's documented, right? So, yeah, okay. Both sides, all sides. Bully for them. They got the payout. No sympathy for the
I
American regulator.
promise no nuance in this story, and turns out there is some, at least. My mistake.
Yeah. What is the nuance that, okay, happened? Amazing.
Fun. I'm happy for Metsera's founders and shareholders.
No, that is absolutely there. Money flowing from bigger company to smaller company absolutely is a way. But yeah, good for them. They got acquired. So good for the founders. No nuance.
That's my story for the week. Do you have anything?
I have nothing. It's all just general AI, more whatever happening. But I myself am like, बहुत pointing to bubble हो गया for a while. I have resolved, unless crazy shit happens, I am not doing any AI stories for months now. Next week, I will do an Xperia Insight. That's an interesting one.
That's called a tolerance break. Not that I know what that means, but it's called a tolerance break.
I need one. I think whoever is listening needs one. You need one for what? Yeah. So no AI stuff for a while. Though I do, as I'm saying that, I know myself also. I might just be back next week.
Yeah, it was fun.